The first drop of blood appeared before the wolf did. Lily Parker saw it on the snow outside Pine Hollow Diner, a small dark spot beneath the flickering red neon sign that said open even though the clock behind the counter had passed midnight 40 minutes ago. She should have turned the sign off. She should have locked the door. She should have swept the fries from beneath booth 3, counted the coins in her apron pocket, and gone upstairs to the narrow room she rented above the storage closet before Mr. Harlan found one more reason to keep her working without paying for the extra hour. But Lily stood still with a wet rag in one hand and an empty coffee pot in the other, staring through the front window at the blood slowly sinking into the snow. Outside, the storm moved across the road like something alive. Wind shoved loose powder against the diner windows. The highway beyond the parking lot had disappeared into white darkness. The gas station across the street was closed, its pumps wrapped in ice. The pine trees behind the diner bent and shuddered under the weight of winter, their black branches scratching at the sky. No one sane should have been out there. No one human, at least. Lily, Mr. Harlan barked from the kitchen. Stop staring at the weather and wipe down table 6. Yes, sir. The answer came automatically. So did the lowering of her eyes. At 24, Lily had become very good at making herself small. Small enough for impatient customers to snap their fingers at her without apology. Small enough for truckers to leave 2 quarters under a ketchup-stained napkin and call it kindness. Small enough for Mr. Harlan to remind her every Friday that waitresses were easy to replace, especially ones with no family name, no pack rank, and no one important coming to ask why their hours never matched their wages. She set the coffee pot back on the warmer, though no one had asked for more coffee in nearly an hour. Only 3 customers remained. An old man asleep over a plate of cold pie, a woman in a red coat pretending not to watch the storm too closely, and a broad-shouldered stranger in the corner booth who had ordered black coffee, touched none of it, and kept his face turned away from the light. Lily wiped table 6. The rag smelled of bleach and old grease. Her hands were cracked from dishwater. Her shoes were damp from melted snow tracked in by boots. Her white apron had a smear of gravy near the pocket where she had hidden her tips. 1 $5 bill, 6 quarters, 3 dimes, and a button someone had left instead of payment as a joke. Dinner for tomorrow, maybe. Breakfast, if she was careful. A bus ticket, never. The neon sign buzzed. Open, open, open. Like a lie too tired to die. Mr. Harlan came out of the kitchen carrying a box of frozen patties. His face was red from heat and temper. Back doors still unlocked. Lily looked up. I was taking out trash earlier. That was 20 minutes ago. I'll lock it now. You'll lock it after you finish closing the front. You think snow pays the heating bill? No, sir. He shoved the box into the freezer beneath the counter and muttered something about girls who thought kindness was a skill. Lily said nothing. Kindness had never paid her rent. But cruelty had never made the world safer, either. She took the rag to the front window and wiped at a smear of fingerprints near the glass. Her reflection looked back at her in pieces. Pale skin, light brown hair escaping its clip, tired eyes, gray-blue uniform dress, white apron, shoulders too thin under the diner lights. Behind her, Mr. Harlan's voice faded back into the kitchen. The old man snored. The woman in the red coat checked her phone. The stranger in the corner booth lifted his head slightly, as if he had heard something no one else had. Lily stopped wiping. Another drop of blood appeared on the snow. Then another. Not falling from above. Moving. A thin line crossed the parking lot from the edge of the pine trees toward the diner, trembling in the storm. Something small had dragged itself through the snow and left proof behind. Lily's fingers tightened around the rag. The sensible thing was to step away. Call animal control. Tell Mr. Harlan. Lock the door. Instead, she leaned closer to the glass. At first, she saw only the storm. Then the red neon flickered. Light spilled across the snow. A small paw print appeared beneath the window. Then another. Lily's breath caught. Something stood just beyond the glow of the sign, half hidden by blowing snow, low to the ground and shaking so hard its body blurred with the wind. A wolf cub, silver gray fur soaked dark against its ribs. One front paw lifted, bleeding. Eyes pale blue, too frightened to be wild, and too young to understand why every warm place kept its doors closed. It did not growl. It did not bare its teeth. It only pressed its injured paw against the diner glass. Lily heard Mr. Harlan shout from the kitchen. "Do not open that door." She looked at the blood on the snow, then at the cub's trembling body, then at the back door she had forgotten to lock. For the first time all night, Lily Parker stopped obeying. She dropped the rag and ran toward the kitchen. The back door fought her. Ice had sealed the bottom edge to the metal threshold, and for one panicked second Lily Parker pulled at the handle while the storm shoved back from the other side like a living hand. Behind her, Mr. Harlan cursed. "Lily, I said leave it." She did not. The wolf cub was no bigger than a kitchen sack of flour. That was what stayed in her mind as her fingers slipped on the cold handle. Not dangerous. Not monstrous. Not the kind of creature men whispered about when they spoke of packs and kings and bloodlines beyond the town border. Small. Bleeding. Hungry enough to come to a diner window during a storm. Lily braced one foot against the wall and pulled again. The door cracked open. Wind burst into the kitchen, sharp with snow and pine and something metallic beneath it. The hanging receipts above the grill snapped wildly. Napkins flew from the counter. The old freezer rattled like bones in a box. The cub stood 3 feet from the step. Closer now. Its silver gray fur clung wetly to its thin body. Snow had crusted along its ears. Its injured paw hovered above the ground, red staining the fur around it. The cub looked at Lily with pale blue eyes, then lowered its head as if expecting the door to close. That hurt worse than the blood. "Come here," Lily whispered. The cub did not move. Mr. Harlan grabbed her shoulder. "Have you lost your mind? That thing could bite. It's hurt. It's a wolf. It's a baby. It's trouble." Lily turned on him. She had not meant to. All her life, she had swallowed sharp words before they reached her teeth. She had swallowed unfair wages, cold rooms, customers' hands brushing too low when they passed, Mr. Harlan's insults, the way people said waitress as if it meant anyone could step over her. But the cub was shaking in the snow, and something in Lily had no room left for obedience. "Then let trouble be warm for 5 minutes," she said. Mr. Harlan stared at her. So did the cook through the serving window. So did the woman in the red coat, who had risen from her booth and now watched the kitchen door with one hand pressed to her mouth. The stranger in the corner booth had also stood. Lily noticed him only for a second. Tall. Still. Too calm. Then the cub whimpered. That small sound broke whatever fear had been holding it outside. It limped forward, 1 step, then another, crossing the threshold like it had been waiting for someone to decide it deserved to live. Lily shut the door behind it before Mr. Harlan could shove it back out. The kitchen went strangely quiet. The cub stood on the rubber mat near the sink, trembling so violently that drops of melted snow shook from its fur onto the floor. Its ribs moved too fast beneath the wet coat. Its nose lifted toward the stove, toward the pot of leftover chicken soup cooling beside the burner. Hungry. That was all Lily saw. Not a beast. Not a warning. A child in another shape, starving under fluorescent lights. She crouched slowly, keeping her hands visible. I won't hurt you. The cub watched her. Its ears flattened. Lily reached for a clean towel from the shelf. Mr. Harlan made a choking sound of outrage, but she ignored him and wrapped the towel around the cub's shoulders before the cold could take deeper hold. The cub flinched at first, then leaned into the warmth. Barely, but enough. Lily's throat tightened. She ladled chicken soup into a shallow bowl, blowing on it until the steam softened. When she pushed it across the floor, the cub stared at the bowl as if food might be another trap. Then hunger won. It lowered its head and began to eat. Fast. Too fast. Lily touched the towel gently near its back, not petting, only steadying. Slow down. You'll make yourself sick. The cub paused at her voice, looked at her, then ate slower. Mr. Harlan pointed toward the front of the diner. I'm calling animal control. Or hunters. The cub froze. Not at animal control. At hunters. Lily felt it stop breathing beneath the towel. That was when she understood something colder than the storm had followed it to the door. She looked down at the blood on its paw, then at the fear in its eyes, then at the dark window where the snow had already begun covering its trail. No, Lily said. Mr. Harlan blinked. Excuse me. She lifted the cub carefully, towel and all. It was lighter than it should have been, but its small body carried a heat that did not feel ordinary. I said no. The stranger in the corner booth took 1 step toward the kitchen. Lily did not know him. She did not know the cub. She did not know that somewhere beyond the storm, the most feared alpha king in the Northern Territories was tearing the night apart to find his missing son. She only knew that a hungry wolf cub had come to her door, and she had let him in. The cub did not trust warmth. That was the first thing Lily Parker learned after carrying him into the back pantry. He wanted the soup. He wanted the towel. He wanted the heat coming from the old radiator under the cracked window. But every time Lily moved too quickly, his small body stiffened beneath her hands, as if kindness was only another trap that had not closed yet. So she slowed down. She set him on a folded flour sack beside the pantry shelves, where sacks of sugar, cans of tomatoes, and cheap coffee tins blocked the view from the dining room. The fluorescent light above them flickered twice, buzzing weakly against the storm. Outside the back wall, wind dragged snow along the alley in long, scratching breaths. The cub kept eating, not like a wild thing, like a starving child who had learned food could disappear. Lily crouched beside him, one hand resting on her knee, the other holding the towel loosely around his wet shoulders. His fur was silver gray under the kitchen light, darker where snow had soaked through, lighter around the ears and muzzle. Too beautiful for a stray, too thin for something that should have belonged to the winter. "Easy," she whispered. "No one's taking it." The cub paused. His pale blue eyes lifted to her face. For a second, Lily had the strange feeling that he understood every word. Then he lowered his head again. Mr. Harlan's voice came from the kitchen. "You've got 5 minutes before I call someone." Lily did not look back. "Then get me the first aid kit. I'm not wasting supplies on a wolf." The cub flinched. Lily turned her head slowly. Mr. Harlan stopped talking. Maybe it was her face. Maybe it was the blood soaking through the towel near the cub's paw. Maybe, for once, the diner owner realized there was a line even tired girls could stop stepping behind. He muttered something ugly and shoved the first aid kit onto the counter. Lily took it without thanking him. The injured paw was worse than it had looked through the glass. Not deep enough to be fatal, but clean-edged, too precise for broken ice or roadside debris. The cut ran along the pad where every step would hurt. Around it, the skin was irritated in a thin, burned circle. Silver. Lily knew that mark. Everyone near pack territory knew enough to fear Silver. Her fingers went still. "What happened to you?" she whispered. The cub pulled his paw back. Not from pain. From memory. Lily did not force him. She soaked a strip of gauze in warm water and cleaned around the wound instead of over it, careful not to make the little body tremble harder than it already was. Blood colored the cloth. Under it, something else appeared. A broken collar. It had been hidden beneath wet fur at the side of his neck, half buried, half torn loose. Not leather. Not rope. Silver links, thin and cruel, snapped in one place as if the cub had fought until the metal gave way. Lily's stomach turned. Someone had put silver on a child. She pushed the fur aside carefully. The cub made a small sound, but he did not bite. Inside the broken collar, near the clasp, a symbol had been engraved so finely she almost missed it. A wolf's head beneath a crown, surrounded by 3 pine branches. Lily stared at it. She had seen that mark once before. Not in real life. On the front page of an old newspaper Mr. Harlan kept under the counter to line shelves. A photograph of black cars outside a courthouse. Men in dark coats. Guards. A headline about border peace and the Hawthorne bloodline. Her breath caught. Hawthorne. The name did not belong in Pine Hollow Diner. It belonged beyond the northern roads, behind iron gates, royal guards, and stories people lowered their voices to tell. The cub looked up at her. "No, not it. Him." "You're not wild," Lily whispered. His ears lowered. The pantry suddenly felt too small. The storm outside too loud. The diner too exposed. All glass windows and weak locks, and a neon sign still calling strangers from the road. Lily looked at the broken silver collar again, then at the precise cut on his paw. This had not been an accident. Someone had hurt him. Someone had chased him. Someone had wanted a royal cub bleeding in the snow where no one kind would open a door. From the dining room, a chair scraped. The stranger in the corner booth was moving. Lily wrapped the towel tighter around the cub and slid the broken collar into her apron pocket before anyone else could see the crown. The cub pressed his cold nose against her wrist. A tiny touch. A silent plea. Lily swallowed hard and looked toward the pantry door. She did not know whose son he was. Not yet. But she knew this much. Whoever had put silver around his neck was not coming through that diner while she was still standing. The stranger asked too politely. That was what made Lily Parker turn cold before he reached the pantry door. Men who were afraid of wolves did not walk slowly toward them. They did not keep their hands relaxed at their sides. They did not smile as if the storm outside, the blood on the kitchen floor, and the trembling cub hidden behind sacks of flour were only small inconveniences in an evening already under control. The stranger from the corner booth stopped beneath the flickering kitchen light. He was tall, dressed in a black wool coat dusted with melted snow at the shoulders, though he had been sitting inside long enough for most of it to dry. His hair was dark blonde, neatly combed. His boots were polished except for the edges. Red mud clung there. Lily noticed because the snow outside Pine Hollow was white, the parking lot was gray, and only the narrow service road behind the pines had that strange iron-colored clay. The same color that had been smeared near the diner's back step. The same direction the cub's blood trail had come from. The stranger's eyes moved once around the kitchen. Not at Mr. Harlan. Not at the soup bowl. Not at the open first aid kit. At the pantry. Lily stepped in front of the door. The movement was small. Enough. His smile changed. "Miss," he said gently, "I believe a dangerous animal may have come this way." Mr. Harlan made a sound of relief, so ugly Lily almost hated him for it. Finally. "Yes." She let it in. "I told her not to." The stranger looked at Lily with kind eyes that did not feel kind at all. "You did the right thing opening the door. A frightened animal can become aggressive if left outside." Lily said nothing. Behind her, the cub shifted on the flour sack. A tiny rustle. The stranger heard it. So did Lily. So did the woman in the red coat, now standing at the edge of the dining room, pale and silent. The stranger's gaze lowered to Lily's apron pocket. The broken silver collar sat there, hidden beneath the fabric, but suddenly it felt as heavy as a stone. "I can take it from here," he said. "There are people looking for that creature." Creature. Not cub. Not baby. Not injured thing. Creature. Lily kept her hand on the pantry door handle. "Who are you?" His smile stayed. "Someone trying to prevent worse trouble." "That is not a name." Mr. Harlan snapped. "Lily, stop being stupid and let the man handle it." The stranger lifted one hand, as if calming the room. His sleeve slipped back half an inch. A silver smear marked the inside cuff. Not jewelry. Not dust from a coin. A faint gray streak, the kind that came from handling something made to burn wolf skin. Lily's mouth went dry. The cub whimpered once behind her. The stranger's eyes sharpened. "There," he said softly. He moved toward the pantry. Lily moved faster. She grabbed the nearest thing on the counter, a full coffee pot gone lukewarm, and dropped it. Glass shattered across the floor. Coffee spread beneath the stranger's boots in a dark, steaming pool. Mr. Harlan shouted. The woman in red gasped. The stranger stopped, not because he was startled, but because the broken glass had made the floor difficult to cross without noise. Lily used that second. She kicked the old blender switch with her heel. The machine screamed to life on the counter, empty blades grinding against nothing, loud enough to swallow the cub's frightened breathing from behind the door. The stranger looked at her. Now the kindness was gone. "You should not involve yourself in pack matters," he said. Lily's heart hit hard against her ribs. Pack matters. So he knew. He had known before he asked. She reached behind her and turned the pantry lock. The tiny click sounded impossibly loud, even under the blender. The stranger's gaze dropped to the handle, then lifted to her face. "You are a waitress," he said quietly. "You do not understand what you are hiding." Lily thought of the silver collar, the burned circle around the cub's paw, the way he had flinched at the word hunters, the way hunger had made him trust a stranger because cold had given him no other choice. "No," she said, "but I understand what you're hunting." His face hardened. For the first time, fear moved through Mr. Harlan's anger. "Lily," he whispered, "move away from the door." She did not. The stranger stepped closer until only broken glass and coffee separated them. His voice lowered for her alone. A smart girl would be afraid. Lily looked straight at him, one hand still locked around the pantry handle, her other hand reaching blindly across the counter until her fingers found the heavy iron skillet waiting beside the stove. She lifted it. Her arms trembled. Her voice did not. "Then you should have left before I learned your face." The skillet was heavier than courage. Lily Parker felt that the moment she lifted it. Her wrist trembled under the weight, and the stranger saw it. Of course he saw it. Men like him noticed weakness the way wolves noticed blood on snow. His eyes dropped to the cast iron pan, then returned to her face with a calm that made her stomach twist. "You are going to hurt yourself," he said. Lily tightened her grip. Then stay where you are. Behind the locked pantry door, the cub made the smallest sound. A breath. A whimper. A frightened slip of life that should have been lost beneath the empty blender screaming on the counter, the storm rattling the back door, and Mr. Harlan shouting for everyone to stop. But the stranger heard it anyway. His head turned slightly. Not much. Enough. Lily moved before he did. She swung the skillet, not at his head, not at his body, but at the shelf beside him. The pan struck a stack of white plates with a crash that split the kitchen open. Ceramic shattered across the counter and floor, pieces skittering into the dark coffee she had spilled moments before. Mr. Harlan yelled like the plates were bleeding instead of the cub. The stranger stepped back. Only one step. But one step was a door staying closed for another second. Lily grabbed a tray of clean silverware and dropped it too. Forks and knives exploded across the tile. Noise filled the kitchen. Bright. Ugly. Useful. The cub went silent behind the pantry door. Good, Lily thought. Stay quiet. Please stay quiet. The stranger looked at the mess around his boots. You think broken dishes will stop me? No, Lily said, breathless. But they'll slow you down. His smile disappeared. That frightened her more than the smile had. He crossed the coffee-slick floor with careful steps, avoiding the glass, and reached for her wrist. Lily swung the skillet again. This time he caught the handle before it struck him. Pain shot through her fingers. He twisted. The pan clanged to the floor. Then his hand closed around her wrist. Hard. Not hard enough to break bone. Hard enough to promise he knew how. Mr. Harlan went quiet. So did the woman in the red coat. So did the whole diner. As if even the neon sign outside had stopped buzzing to listen. The stranger leaned close. His voice was soft now, almost kind again. A waitress should know when to let powerful people handle powerful things. Lily's eyes watered from the pain in her wrist. She did not look away. You're not powerful, she whispered. You're scared of a hungry cub. His fingers tightened. The pantry door shook once behind her. The cub had moved toward her voice. No. Lily shifted her body in front of the door again. Stay, she said, not to the man. The stranger understood. For the first time, real anger crossed his face. He shoved her against the pantry door. The impact knocked breath from her lungs and made the old wood rattle in its frame. The cub yelped inside. Lily heard claws scrape against the floor, desperate and small. Open it, the stranger said. Lily shook her head. His free hand moved inside his coat. When it came out, the kitchen light caught silver. A knife. Narrow. Clean. Too bright. Mr. Harlan backed into the stove. What the hell is this? The stranger did not look at him. Pack justice. Lily stared at the blade. Silver. The cub's collar. The burned wound. The red mud. Everything connected in one cold line. This man had not come to rescue the cub. He had come to finish what the storm had failed to do. Lily's fear changed shape. It did not vanish. It sharpened. She drove her heel backward into the pantry door twice, a signal without knowing if the cub would understand. Then she reached with her free hand, seized the hanging mop beside the freezer, and jammed the wooden handle through the pantry door latch, wedging it beneath the metal shelf. The stranger cursed and lunged. Too late. The door would not open easily now. Lily twisted under his grip, not away from him, but toward the counter. Her fingers found the switch for the old radio Mr. Harlan kept beside the register line. Static burst through the kitchen speakers, loud and shrieking. The cub's yelps disappeared beneath it. The stranger slammed her wrist down against the counter. Enough, Lily gasped. Through the kitchen window, white headlights swept across the alley. Once, then again, the stranger saw the light. His face changed. Not fear exactly. Recognition. Outside, engines rolled into the parking lot. More than one, heavy enough to make the diner windows tremble. Boots struck snow. Car doors opened. Voices moved through the storm with command behind them. The stranger released Lily and stepped away from the pantry door. Too late to look innocent. Too early to run. Lily held her bruised wrist against her chest and listened as the front bell of Pine Hollow Diner gave one small, bright ring. Someone had opened the door. The storm entered first. Then silence. Then a voice from the dining room, low enough to make every light in the diner feel smaller. Where is my son? The man who entered the diner did not look like a father first. He looked like winter had given itself a body. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black coat dusted with snow, Alpha King Caleb Hawthorne stepped through the front door of Pine Hollow Diner with the storm behind him and command moving before him. The bell above the door gave one weak ring, then fell silent, as if even metal understood it had made enough noise. No one spoke. Not Mr. Harlan. Not the woman in the red coat. Not the old man who had finally lifted his head from his cold pie and gone pale. Not Lily Parker, standing in the kitchen doorway with one bruised wrist held against her chest, a silver knife on the floor near her feet, broken plates around her shoes, and a royal cub hidden behind a pantry door she had jammed shut with a mop handle. Caleb's eyes swept the room once. Gray. Cold. Too focused to be confused by fear. Behind him, men in dark coats filled the entrance, royal guards with snow melting on their shoulders and hands close to weapons they did not need to show. The diner, with its cracked red booths and greasy counter and flickering menu board, suddenly looked too small to hold them. The stranger in the black wool coat moved first. He dropped to one knee. The motion was so smooth, so practiced, that Lily understood something terrible before he spoke. He belonged to this world. "My king," he said, head bowed. "I found the cub." Lily went still. "My king." The words struck the room harder than the storm. Caleb Hawthorne. Even girls with no pack rank knew that name. The most feared alpha king in the Northern Territories. The man people spoke of in diners after midnight when roads were empty and they wanted to scare themselves awake. A ruler with an army behind him, a dead queen behind his silence, and one surviving son guarded more closely than any crown. Lily's hand moved to her apron pocket. The broken silver collar seemed to burn through the fabric. The cub behind her was not a stray, not trouble, not merely someone's lost child. He was Caleb Hawthorne's son. The stranger lifted his face, and his expression was perfect now. Alarmed, loyal, grieved in exactly the right places. "The waitress hid him in the pantry," he said. "When I attempted to retrieve him, she became violent." Mr. Harlan made a strangled sound. She did let the animal in. "I told her not to." The words landed like stones. Lily looked at him, not surprised. That made it worse. Caleb's gaze shifted to her. For the first time, the full weight of the Alpha King's attention found Lily Parker. She felt it in her knees, in her throat, in the bruised place around her wrist. He looked at the skillet on the floor, the shattered plates, the spilled coffee, the silver knife. Then his eyes moved to the pantry door behind her, where the mop handle wedged the latch shut. "You have my son," he said. Not a question. Lily could have defended herself. She could have explained the blood, the soup, the silver collar, the man's cuff, the red mud on his boots. But the cub whimpered behind the door. Small, afraid, and every guard in the diner heard it. Caleb's face changed. Not softened, worsened. A father's fear sharpened by a king's power. The guard stepped forward. Lily stepped back, placing herself between them and the pantry. One of the guards reached for her arm. Caleb lifted a hand. The guard stopped. The Alpha King looked at the man kneeling on the floor. "Why is there a silver blade in a diner kitchen?" The stranger's eyes flicked once toward the knife. Too quick. Lily saw it. Caleb saw Lily see it. "It was hers," the stranger said. "She threatened me." Lily laughed once. It came out wrong. Thin, shaken, angry. "I work for tips," she said. "If I owned silver that clean, I would not be eating toast for dinner." No one smiled. But Caleb's eyes narrowed. The stranger stood slowly. "My king, the cub may be injured. We should remove him before this woman does more damage." Lily's fear flared. The cub heard that voice and scratched once against the pantry floor. Not toward the stranger. Away from him. Lily turned enough to speak through the door. "It's okay." The scratching stopped. Every person in the diner heard the cub obey her. Caleb went completely still. The stranger's jaw tightened. Lily swallowed and reached into her apron pocket with shaking fingers. The guards tensed. Caleb did not move. She pulled out the broken collar. Silver links. Snapped clasp. The Hawthorne crest scratched with blood and ice. She held it out. "I found this on his neck," she said. "And that man has silver on his cuff." The room froze. The stranger's mask cracked for half a second. Only half. Enough. Caleb looked at the collar in Lily's hand, then at the pantry door, then at the kneeling liar who had arrived too clean from a bloody storm. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. That made it more dangerous. "Open the pantry." Lily's fingers tightened around the collar. "If I do," she whispered, "do not let him touch the cub." No waitress should have given conditions to the most feared alpha king alive. But Caleb Hawthorne did not punish her. He looked at the stranger, then at the silver knife, then back at Lily. You have my word. The pantry door opened like a held breath breaking. Lily pulled the mop handle free first. The wood scraped against the metal shelf, loud in the silence. Every guard in the diner washed her hands. Mr. Harlan watched the silver collar. The stranger watched the crack between the door and frame, as if whatever came out of it might ruin him. Caleb Hawthorne watched Lily. That was worse. Not because his stare was cruel, because it missed nothing. Her bruised wrist, the trembling in her fingers, the way she turned her body before opening the door, making herself smaller so the cub would see her first and not the room full of armed men. Oliver, Caleb said. One word. A name. The cub inside the pantry made a sound so soft it nearly disappeared beneath the hum of the diner lights. Lily opened the door. The silver-gray cub stood on the folded flour sack with the towel still hanging crookedly around his shoulders. His injured paw hovered above the floor. Soup darkened the fur near his mouth. His pale blue eyes moved from Lily to the guards, then to the stranger in the black wool coat. His ears flattened. A growl rose from him. Tiny, broken, furious. The stranger lowered his head quickly. Your Highness, it is all right now. The cub bared his little teeth. Not at Lily. At him. The room understood before anyone said it. Lily felt the truth pass through the diner like cold air slipping under a door. Caleb took one step forward. The cub looked at him. For a moment, everything in the Alpha King changed. Not on his face. There, he remained carved from winter and command. But in his eyes, something ancient and terrified went still at the sight of the small life he had been searching for. My son, he said. Oliver limped forward. Not to Caleb. To Lily. He crossed the kitchen floor on 3 trembling legs, dragging the towel behind him, and pressed himself against her ankle. Lily stopped breathing. The guards shifted in confusion. Mr. Harlan whispered, What in God's name? Oliver turned his small body sideways and stood between Lily and the royal guards. Then he growled again. At them. At his father's men. Protecting her. No one moved. The stranger's face went white. Caleb saw it. His gaze dropped to Oliver's injured paw, then lifted to Lily's bruised wrist, then moved to the stranger with a silence sharper than accusation. Explain, Caleb said. The stranger swallowed. The cub is frightened. He does not understand. He understands enough to stand in front of the woman you accused. Lily looked down at Oliver. His body shook against her shoe, but he did not move away. Slowly, carefully, she lowered one hand toward him. It's okay. Oliver pressed his cold nose into her palm. The gesture was small, the kind of thing no counsel would record properly. But every person in Pine Hollow Diner saw the royal cub choose a waitress over the man who claimed to have rescued him. Caleb's jaw tightened. Your cuff, he said to the stranger. My king. Show it. The stranger's hand twitched toward his sleeve. A mistake. 2 guards seized him before he could step back. One tore the cuff open. Under the black wool, silver residue streaked the lining, dull gray against the fabric. The woman in the red coat gasped. Mr. Harlan took one step away from the stranger, as if distance could erase what he had almost helped happen. Lily reached into her pocket and placed the broken collar on the counter. The mark is yours, she said quietly. But the silver hurt him. Caleb did not touch the collar. He looked at it as if touching it might make the reality of his son's pain more than even an Alpha King could bear. Oliver whimpered. Caleb knelt. The entire diner seemed to shrink around that impossible sight. The most feared Alpha King in the Northern Territories lowering himself onto a dirty diner floor covered in coffee, broken plates, and melted snow. He reached for his son. Oliver hesitated, then limped forward far enough for Caleb to gather him against his chest. The king closed his eyes for 1 second. Only one. When they opened again, there was nothing soft left for the man in the black coat. Who sent you? The stranger said nothing. Oliver tucked his face against Caleb's coat, but kept one paw stretched toward Lily, claws caught lightly in the hem of her apron. Caleb noticed. Everyone noticed. Lily wanted to step back. She did not. The stranger gave a thin smile. You will not find the answer in a diner. Caleb stood with Oliver in his arms. No, he said, but I found the woman who kept him alive. His eyes returned to Lily. This time, the weight of his attention did not feel like an accusation. It felt like a door opening in a world that had spent all night trying to close one. Lily Parker, he said, reading her name from the tag pinned to her uniform. Tell me everything you saw. Oliver would not let go of her apron. That was the first answer Lily Parker gave without speaking. The royal cub rested against Caleb Hawthorne's chest, wrapped in the diner towel, one injured paw tucked carefully away from the rough wool of his father's coat. He was safe now, surrounded by guards, held by the most feared alpha king in the Northern Territories. Still, his tiny claws remained hooked in the hem of Lily's white apron. As if the waitress with cracked hands and a bruised wrist was part of the rescue, he was not willing to surrender. Caleb looked at the paw, then at Lily. Start with the blood, he said. His voice was controlled. Too controlled, like a blade still in its sheath. Lily swallowed and pointed toward the back door. It came from the pines, not the road. The trail crossed the service alley. Red mud was mixed into the snow. One guard looked toward the stranger's boots. The red clay still clung to the edges. Caleb saw it too. The stranger's face did not change, but his shoulders tightened. I fed him soup, Lily continued. He was starving. His paw was cut clean, not torn. There was a burned ring around the wound. Silver, Caleb said. Not a question. Lily nodded. Oliver shivered against him. That small movement did what Lily's words could not. It changed the room. The guard stopped looking at the cub as a royal heir and started looking at him as a child who had been hurt. Lily reached into her apron pocket and took out the broken collar again. She placed it on the counter beside a stack of napkins and Mr. Harlan's greasy receipt book. The Hawthorne crest caught the light. Someone put this on him, she said. It was snapped when I found him. Caleb's hand closed slowly around nothing. A king could command men. He could not command away the image of silver around his son's neck. The stranger spoke quickly. My king, I found the trail after the abduction. It is possible she mistook my pursuit for, Oliver growled. One small sound. Enough to silence him. Lily looked at the stranger's coat. You said you were trying to protect the town, but you never looked outside. You looked at the pantry first. The woman in the red coat stepped forward, trembling. That's true. He knew where she had hidden it. Him, Caleb said. The woman flinched. Him. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Lily kept going because stopping now felt more dangerous than speaking. His cuff had silver on it. His boots had the same red mud as the trail. And when Mr. Harlan said hunters, Oliver froze before anyone explained why. Caleb's eyes moved to the stranger. Your name. The man hesitated. A guard struck the back of his knee, forcing him lower. Miles Voss, he said through his teeth. The name meant nothing to Lily. It meant something to Caleb. A cold recognition passed over the Alpha King's face. You serve Beta Ryan Cole. Miles said nothing. That was answer enough. Caleb turned to his captain. Search him. The guard stripped the black coat from Miles's shoulders and searched the pockets. First came a second silver blade, then a folded map of the service road behind Pine Hollow, then a tiny glass vial wrapped in cloth. The healer among the guards uncorked it and smelled once. His face hardened. Sleeping draught. Strong enough for a cub. Lily's stomach turned. Oliver had not escaped by luck. He had escaped from a planned disappearance. Caleb looked down at his son. Oliver pressed his face deeper into his father's coat, but his paw still held Lily's apron. The Alpha King understood then. Not just that Lily had fed him. Not just that she had hidden him. She had stood between his son and the man sent to finish the hunt. Ryan wanted him taken before the Border Council, Caleb said quietly. Miles smiled faintly. You have many enemies, my king. Caleb's gaze lifted. The diner seemed to lose all warmth. No, he said. Tonight I have fewer. Miles's smile died. Lily should have felt relieved. Instead, her legs weakened so suddenly she grabbed the counter. Caleb moved as if to steady her, then stopped before touching her. He looked at her bruised wrist, the broken dishes around her shoes, the spilled coffee, the skillet on the floor, every small, ugly thing she had used to buy Oliver one more second. His voice changed when he spoke to her. Not soft. Respectful. You were afraid, he said. Lily looked at Oliver, then at the silver collar. Yes. And you opened the door anyway. She had no answer for that. Oliver gave a small sound and stretched his paw farther toward her. Lily touched it with 2 fingers. Carefully, Caleb watched his son lean into her hand. Around them, the diner bowed into silence. The truth was no longer hidden in the storm. It was standing under fluorescent lights, held between a king, a cub, and a waitress no one had thought worth believing. The storm stopped before the fear did. Snow still pressed against the windows of Pine Hollow Diner, but the wind had gone quiet, as if the night itself had stepped back to see what the Alpha King would do next. Miles Voss knelt on the greasy tile with 2 guards holding him down. The silver blades lay on the counter beside the broken collar, the folded map, and the sleeping draft meant for Oliver Hawthorne. Mr. Harlan stood behind the register with his mouth half open, looking at Lily Parker as if he had never seen the waitress who had worked 12-hour shifts under his roof. That was because he had not. Not really. He had seen the apron, the tired shoes, the girl who wiped tables and said yes, sir. He had not seen the woman who opened a door in a snowstorm because a hungry cub was bleeding on the other side. Caleb Hawthorne stood in the center of the diner with his son in his arms. Oliver's small body was wrapped in Lily's towel, his injured paw bandaged, his pale blue eyes half closed from exhaustion. But even now, one paw remained stretched toward Lily. When she stepped back, his claws tightened weakly in the hem of her apron. Caleb looked down at him, then at her. The most feared Alpha King in the Northern Territories seemed to understand something that needed no witness, no counsel, no law. His son did not want to leave without her. Miles laughed under his breath. You will start a war over a diner girl. Caleb turned his head. The laugh died. No, he said. A war began when Ryan Cole put silver on my child. The guards went still. Even Mr. Harlan understood that name. Beta Ryan Cole was not some roadside criminal. He was the man who stood beside Caleb at border councils, signed commands, inspected royal routes, smiled for newspapers, and was trusted with the safety of the air he had tried to erase. Caleb looked at his captain. Send riders to the Eastern Lodge. Seal Ryan Cole's estate before dawn. No letters leave. No servants are dismissed. No fire is lit without inspection. Yes, my king. Miles struggled then. Too late. His calm broke under the sound of orders becoming chains around men who had thought distance would protect them. Caleb stepped toward him. You hunted my son through the snow. Miles spat near Lily's shoe. She should have stayed out of it. Oliver growled. Small. Ragged. Enough. Caleb's face went cold in a way Lily hoped never turned toward her. She is the only reason he is alive. The words did not shout. They did not need to. They filled the diner anyway. The woman in the red coat lowered her head first. Then the old man at the pie counter. Then one of the guards, not to Caleb, but toward Lily. Mr. Harlan stared at the floor. Lily did not know what to do with people bowing in a room where she usually picked up crumbs under tables. Caleb walked to her slowly, stopping close enough for Oliver to reach her hand. The cub touched his nose to Lily's fingers, then gave a tired sigh against his father's coat. Something in Caleb's expression shifted. Not softened. Opened. You fed him, he said. Lily swallowed. He was hungry. You hid him. He was scared. You stood between him and Silver. Her bruised wrist throbbed. She looked at the broken dishes, the spilled coffee, the skillet on the floor. Small things. Waitress things. The only weapon she had been able to afford. I didn't know who he was, she whispered. I know. That answer was worse than praise. It meant he understood the part that mattered. She had not opened the door for a prince. She had opened it for a trembling child. Caleb turned to the room. The waitress you wanted to throw out is the reason my son is alive. Mr. Harlan flinched. Lily looked down, but Caleb's voice stopped her. Do not lower your eyes. The diner went silent again. This time, Lily lifted her head. Caleb Hawthorne, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, faced the guards, the witnesses, the liar in chains, and the owner who had nearly sent a royal cub back into the snow. From this moment, he said, Lily Parker is under my protection. Anyone who threatens her, dismisses her testimony, or punishes her for what happened here will answer directly to me. Mr. Harlan went pale. Good, Lily thought, and surprised herself. Caleb looked back at her. My son owes you his life. Lily's throat tightened. Oliver blinked sleepily at her, still holding her apron like he had chosen it before anyone told him what she was worth. Outside, the neon sign flickered once. Open. This time, it did not look like a lie. Lily Parker had opened a door for a hungry wolf cub in a storm. By morning, the most feared Alpha King in the North had opened a different one for her. The black car waiting outside should have looked like safety. It did not. Lily Parker stood beneath the diner awning with snow melting through her thin waitress shoes. Oliver wrapped in a clean blanket against Caleb Hawthorne's chest, and 6 royal guards forming a wall between her and the white morning road. The storm had weakened to a soft fall, but Pine Hollow still looked buried, the highway silent, the pines heavy with snow, the diner windows glowing behind her like a small, tired heart that had somehow survived the night. Mr. Harlan had not followed her outside. Good. Lily did not have enough strength left to be small for him. Caleb's captain opened the rear door of the nearest black car. Warm air spilled out. Leather seats. Dark glass. A folded wool blanket. A silver thermos resting in the cup holder. Everything expensive. Everything controlled. Oliver lifted his head. His ears flattened. Lily saw it before anyone else did. Not a growl. Not a cry. A tiny tightening of the cub's body against his father's coat. So small it could have been pain from his injured paw. But Lily had held him when he was starving. She had felt the difference between fear of strangers and fear of something remembered. He was afraid of the car. Lily stopped walking. Caleb noticed at once. What is it? The captain looked between them. The vehicle is secure, my king. We checked it before entering the diner. Lily stared at the open door. She should have believed him. A royal guard knew more about danger than a waitress with bruised fingers and coffee on her apron. But the night had taught her something terrible. Important men could check a thing and still miss the truth if the truth was too small for them to respect. Oliver whimpered. Lily looked past the blanket on the seat, past the polished leather, past the thermos. There, on the black floor mat near the shadow beneath the front seat, was one pale grain of something caught in melted snow. Silver dust did not shine loudly. That was why people died from it. Lily's mouth went dry. Do not put him in that car. The captain stiffened. Miss Parker. Caleb lifted one hand. The captain stopped. Lily stepped closer, but Caleb moved before she could reach the door. Point. She did. His gaze followed her finger to the floor mat. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then Caleb's face changed. The guard nearest the car drew back sharply. Another opened the front door. The captain pulled the mat free with gloved hands and held it under the gray morning light. A thin dusting of silver clung to the damp rubber. Not much. Enough. The captain went pale. This was not here when we arrived. Caleb looked at the line of cars. Every engine running. Every door closed. Every guard suddenly aware that rescue could be poisoned too. Oliver pressed closer into his father's chest, shaking again. Lily's stomach turned. Miles Voss had not been the end. He had been the hand that reached the diner first. Caleb's voice dropped. Search every vehicle. Now. The guards moved. Fast. Doors opened. Mats came out. Seats were lifted. Trunks were checked. One man crawled beneath the second car and came out holding a small black capsule wrapped in wire and silver thread. The captain swore. Caleb did not look at him. He looked at Lily. Not with surprise this time. With the awful understanding of a king realizing the woman in a waitress apron had saved his son twice before sunrise. You saw his fear, Caleb said. Lily looked at Oliver. I listened to it. The cub stretched one paw toward her. She touched it gently. Around them, armed men stood in snow beside royal cars that had become traps, and none of them laughed at the waitress anymore. Caleb turned to his captain. No convoy. No planned routes. We move through the old mill road. Quietly. Yes, my king. Then Caleb faced Lily again. You are coming with us. Her breath caught. Not as a request. Not as a threat. As protection shaped like command. Lily looked back at Pine Hollow Diner, at the red neon sign still flickering in the window, at the life where no one had looked twice until a wolf cub bled on her snow. Then she looked at Oliver, who had not let go of her fingers. For the second time that night, Lily Parker chose the door that frightened her. She stepped away from the diner and followed the Alpha King into the snow. The old mill road did not look like a road anymore. Snow had buried most of it. Only 2 narrow tire marks cut through the white, curving between black pine trunks and frozen ditches where the morning light arrived thin and gray. The royal convoy had been left behind near Pine Hollow Diner. No engines. No polished cars. No route anyone could have predicted. Now they moved in 2 dark utility trucks taken from the diner's supply lot, with no crests on the doors and no royal flags to announce that the most feared Alpha King in the Northern Territories was riding through backwoods with his injured son and a waitress in the rear seat. Lily Parker sat opposite Caleb Hawthorne, her hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee she had not drunk. Oliver lay between them on a folded blanket. He should have been sleeping. He was not. Every time the truck hit a rut, his small body stiffened. Every time branches scraped the windows, his pale blue eyes opened and searched for Lily before closing again. His bandaged paw rested against Caleb's coat, but his nose stayed near Lily's knee, as if he still needed proof that the diner door had not been a dream. Caleb noticed. He noticed everything. "You are cold," he said. Lily looked down at herself. Gray-blue waitress dress. White apron under a borrowed guard coat. Wet shoes. Bruised wrist. Dried soup on her sleeve. She looked like someone who had been pulled from one life before she had time to fold it properly. "I've worked colder shifts," she said. Caleb's eyes lowered to her shoes. His jaw tightened. Lily wished she had not spoken. Not because she feared him exactly. Because powerful men sometimes heard poverty as accusation, and she did not have strength left to apologize for surviving it. But Caleb only removed one black glove and laid it beside Oliver, close enough for the cub to smell him, not close enough to wake him. "My guards missed the car," he said. Lily looked up. It was not a question. It was not praise either. It was something harder for a king to give. Admission. "They were looking for weapons," she said. Oliver was looking for pain. Caleb was silent. Outside, the road curved toward an old covered bridge near the abandoned mill. Lily remembered it from childhood bus rides. Red boards, broken roof, creek below, one weak lantern hanging from the center beam for travelers who still crossed in winter. The lantern was burning. Lily sat straighter. Caleb saw the movement. "What? That lantern should be dead." The guard driving glanced in the mirror. "Locals maintain it." "No," Lily said. "Mr. Harlan complains every winter because no one maintains this road. The mill closed 8 years ago." The truck slowed. Ahead, the covered bridge waited with its single yellow light glowing warmly against the snow. Too warmly. Lily's stomach turned. "There's no snow on the first boards," she whispered. Caleb leaned forward. "Stop." The driver braked before the bridge. The second truck stopped behind them. For 3 seconds, nothing moved except falling snow. Then one guard stepped out and approached the bridge on foot. "Careful," Lily called before she could stop herself. The guard looked back. Not annoyed. Listening. That made her throat tighten. He crouched near the entrance, brushed snow from the edge of the planks, and went still. Another guard joined him. Together they lifted a thin wire stretched low across the boards, almost invisible under frost. Silver thread. Oliver woke with a sharp whimper. Caleb's arm came around him instantly. The captain followed the wire to the lantern beam and found the trap hidden above it. A weighted bundle of silver hooks wrapped in fishing line, set to fall at cub height when the first wool crossed. No one spoke. There were silences made of shock. This one was made of murder prevented by a waitress who remembered a dead lantern. Caleb looked at Lily across the dim truck interior. Snowlight cut his face into hard lines, but his eyes were different now. Not less dangerous. More certain of where that danger belonged. "You saved him again." Lily looked at the bridge. At the silver hooks. At Oliver trembling against his father's chest. "I saw a light where there shouldn't be one." Caleb's voice dropped. "That is what saving looks like before anyone important recognizes it." Lily did not know how to answer. All her life, she had been told her noticing was not worth much. A dirty table. An empty coffee cup. A customer leaving without paying. A back door unlocked. A drop of blood in snow. A lantern burning on a road no one used. Caleb turned to his captain. Ryan knew the emergency routes. The captain's face hardened. Only the inner council had them. Then the council is no longer inner. The words were quiet. Final. Oliver shifted and reached one paw toward Lily. She took it gently between 2 fingers. His claws curled around her skin. Caleb watched his son choose her again, not as evidence now, but as comfort. The bridge trap was cut down. The trucks turned away from the old mill road and disappeared deeper into the pines, leaving the warm lantern burning behind them like a lie that had failed to kill a child. For the first time since leaving the diner, Lily understood the truth. She had not stepped out of danger. She had been brought closer to the heart of it. Hawthorne Lodge did not welcome Lily Parker. It measured her. The iron gates opened through a wall of black stone, and the trucks rolled into a courtyard buried under fresh snow. Guards stood along the steps in dark winter coats, every face hard, every hand close to a weapon. Above them, the lodge rose against the pale morning sky with high windows, carved wolf heads, and banners snapping in the wind like warnings. Lily stepped out of the truck in wet waitress shoes. Every eye found her apron first, not her bruised wrist, not the dried blood on her sleeve, not Oliver, who had slept with his small paw against her hand for most of the ride. The apron, the proof that she did not belong near gates like these. Caleb Hawthorne climbed out after her with Oliver wrapped against his chest. The courtyard changed the moment his boots touched the snow. Men straightened, heads bowed. Fear became order. "My king," a voice called from the steps. Beta Ryan Cole descended with perfect concern on his face. He was handsome in the polished way dangerous men learned to be handsome for rooms that rewarded control. Dark hair, clean coat, silver wolf pin at his collar. No mud on his boots. No panic in his eyes. That was what made Lily afraid. A guilty man should have looked hunted. Ryan looked prepared. "My king," he said again, stopping at the foot of the steps. His gaze moved to Oliver, then to Lily, and his expression tightened at exactly the right moment. "Thank God the prince is alive." Oliver woke. His body went rigid. Lily saw it before Caleb looked down. The cub did not growl first. He went silent. Too silent. His injured paw curled beneath the blanket, and his pale blue eyes fixed on Ryan Cole as if the morning had turned back into the storm. Lily's breath caught. Ryan's gaze shifted to her. Only once. But in that one look, she felt the same cold politeness as Miles Voss in the diner. "You found him with her?" Ryan asked. Caleb said nothing. Ryan lowered his voice, carefully enough for the guards to hear. "A waitress from Pine Hollow had the royal heir hidden in a pantry. And now she is here, inside Hawthorne gates." The accusation did not shout. It spread. Lily felt the courtyard absorb it. Guards looking at her again. Not with gratitude now. With doubt. She should have defended herself. Instead, she looked at Ryan's silver wolf pin. A single thread of red clung beneath the clasp. Not blood. Clay. The same iron-red mud from the service road. The same color that had marked Miles Voss's boots. Lily stared. Ryan noticed. His hand moved toward the pin. Too late. Caleb saw her stare. "What is it?" Lily swallowed. "His collar pin." Ryan smiled faintly. "My king, surely we are not taking evidence from a diner girl's imagination." Oliver made a broken sound. "Not fear now. Warning." Lily stepped closer before courage could fail her. "There's red clay under the clasp. Pine Hollow clay. From the service road behind the diner." Ryan's face stayed calm. His fingers did not. They closed over the pin. Caleb's voice turned quiet. "Remove it." Ryan looked at him. "Your Majesty?" The pin. The courtyard went still. Ryan laughed once, soft and wounded. "You cannot believe this girl over me." Caleb looked down at Oliver. The cub was trembling again. Then he looked at Lily. "I have learned to believe what my son fears." A guard stepped forward and removed the pin from Ryan's collar. Beneath it, caught in the hinge, was a splinter of silver thread. The same thread from the bridge trap. The captain went pale. "My king." Ryan moved. Not toward Caleb. Toward Lily. A hidden blade flashed from his sleeve, small and silver bright, aimed not for the Alpha King, not for the guards, but for the waitress whose noticing had ruined him. Caleb caught his wrist before the blade reached her throat. The sound of bone under royal grip was quiet. Ryan's face twisted. Oliver barked once, sharp and terrified. Lily stumbled back, but she did not fall. Caleb forced Ryan to his knees in the snow. The silver blade dropped between them. No one doubted anymore. Not the guards. Not the courtyard. Not Ryan, whose perfect mask had finally cracked open to show the panic underneath. Caleb leaned over him, voice cold enough to make the morning seem warm. "You sent Miles Voss. You marked the car. You set the bridge." Ryan breathed hard through his teeth. "You were too weak after the queen died. The border packs needed a ruler without a child to cloud his judgment." Caleb's eyes went empty, then lethal. Lily looked at Oliver, shaking in his blanket, and understood. This had never been only about power. It had been about removing the one small life that kept Caleb human. Caleb looked at the guards. "Chain him." Iron closed around Ryan Cole in the courtyard before every wolf of Hawthorne Lodge. And beside the Alpha King, in wet shoes and a stained apron, Lily Parker stood as the witness who had carried the truth through snow, blood, and silver all the way to his gates. By noon, every wolf in Hawthorne Lodge knew the waitress's name. Not because Lily Parker had told them. She had barely spoken since the courtyard. The healer had taken Oliver first, carrying him into a warm room with clean blankets, silver neutralizing salve, and 3 guards posted outside the door. Caleb had gone with him, but Oliver had cried once when Lily stopped at the threshold. Once. That was enough. So Lily had been brought inside too. Not through the servant entrance. Not around the side of the lodge where deliveries came and people with aprons were expected to disappear. Through the main doors. Past the carved wolf heads. Past the black stone pillars. Past every guard who had looked at her apron before they looked at the bruises on her wrist. Now she stood in the great hall of Hawthorne Lodge with a borrowed blanket around her shoulders and snow melting from her waitress shoes onto a floor polished enough to reflect the banners overhead. Ryan Cole knelt in chains before the council table. Miles Voss had been dragged in from the holding room, his face bruised from his failed escape attempt, his coat removed, his silver-stained cuffs exposed for all to see. On the table lay the evidence. Oliver's broken collar, the silver blade, the sleeping draft, the red clay from Ryan's pin, the silver thread from the bridge trap, and the capsule found beneath the royal car. Small things. Ugly things. The kind of things powerful men thought no waitress would notice. Caleb Hawthorne stood at the head of the hall with Oliver in his arms. The cub had been cleaned, treated, and wrapped in a dark blue blanket embroidered with the Hawthorne crest. His injured paw was bandaged. His pale blue eyes were heavy with exhaustion, but when Ryan lifted his head, Oliver pressed closer into his father's chest and growled. The sound was weak. The meaning was not. Caleb looked at the chained beta. You used my grief, he said. Ryan's mouth tightened. You used my routes. My guards. My son's trust. Ryan said nothing. Caleb stepped closer. And when a waitress saw what my counsel did not, you tried to silence her with silver. The hall went cold. Lily felt every eye turn toward her. This time, she did not lower her gaze. Ryan laughed bitterly. You will let a diner girl stand above your beta? Caleb looked at Lily then. Not as if she stood above anyone. As if she had stood where no one else dared. She stood between my son and death, he said. That is higher than you ever reached. No one breathed. The captain of the guard bowed his head first. Then the healer. Then the men along the walls, one by one, until the great hall filled with the quiet sound of pride breaking into shame. Caleb turned to the council. Ryan Cole is stripped of rank, name, and authority. His property will be seized. Every order he gave in the last year will be reviewed. Every guard who obeyed him over the safety of my son will answer before this hall. Ryan lunged against his chains. You are making yourself weak. Oliver growled again. Caleb's face did not change. No, I am remembering what strength is for. The guards dragged Ryan away. His boots scraped across the polished floor, leaving wet marks that vanished almost immediately behind him. Miles followed in chains, head lowered now that politeness had failed him. When the doors closed, the hall remained silent. Caleb looked down at Oliver. Do you want to go to her? Oliver's ears lifted. Lily's throat tightened. Caleb crossed the hall and stopped before her. He lowered himself slightly, enough for Oliver to stretch from his arms toward Lily's hands. The cub pressed his nose into her palm and gave a tired sigh, the same small sound he had made in the diner after the first bowl of soup. The hall saw it. The Prince of Hawthorne choosing the waitress again. Caleb's voice softened only at the edges. He trusts you. Lily swallowed. I only opened the door. No, Caleb said. You opened it when everyone else wanted it closed. That hurt more than she expected. Because it was true. Because it was small. Because it was everything. Caleb turned so the whole hall could hear him. Lily Parker is under my protection. She will not return to Pine Hollow Diner unless she chooses it. Her wages will be paid for every hour stolen from her. Her testimony will be entered into royal record. And from this day forward, no one in Hawthorne territory will call her only a waitress. Lily stared at him. She did not know how to stand beneath that many eyes without shrinking. Then Oliver nudged her hand. Once. A reminder. She looked up. Caleb held her gaze. There was no romance in it yet. No crown. No promise dressed as a fairy tale. Only a father's gratitude, a king's respect, and something quieter beginning in the space between them. Lily Parker had opened a diner door for a hungry wolf cub because he was cold, bleeding, and afraid. She had not known he was royal. She had not known his father could command armies. She had not known one act of kindness could pull her out of invisibility and place her before a kingdom. But as the hall bowed to her, and Oliver curled safely against her hands, Lily finally understood. The door she had opened in the storm had never belonged only to the cub. It had opened for her too.